Alright, figured I'd do a short video on some 24 valve Cummins rocker arms and trunnions. Um, I am currently building a separate engine for my truck. It's got 150,000 miles on it, out of a 99 24 valve, obviously, so we're talking about here. I wanted to go over what I found when I pulled the rocker arm assemblies off. This kind of surprised me because all the other wear in the engine was very minimal, which it should be. And I wasn't aware of this problem with the rocker arms. But let me go ahead and grab a set here. Alright, this is off cylinder 4. I've not cleaned these up yet, but what I have done so far is I did machine the trunnions. So I wanted to show that and go over why I did that. Alright, so here you got your pedestal, which I believe goes like that. You've got your intake rocker arm and your exhaust rocker arm sit just like that. Okay, so this is how they would sit in the engine. Now, right now, you can see when I move this around, it's going to stick pretty much wherever I put it. And these are oiled up. They got some oil on them. The exhaust is fallen. Now, keep in mind, I have cleaned these up a little bit. I wish I had a set fresh out of the engine because some of them would not move like at all. They were super stiff. I had to actually knock some of these trunnions out of the rocker arm assembly. So now I can get them out relatively smooth. Let me show you what I did here. See, even there was a little rough. So here's the trunnion. Now, normally these three, you guys can even see this. Yeah, you can barely see it. They're really small. So these three passages, 1, 2, and 3, would normally not be here. This is what I machined in. So you can see the only thing that feeds this trunnion oil is this thin line right here. That is it. And that line is fed from this passage right here, which is still relatively small. So these are all galled up on the bottom. You can see it. Okay, good. I'm glad you can see it on the camera. I was worried you couldn't. This one's actually got some on both sides. Right there and right there. Now, normally no oil really is getting pushed in here more so than anywhere else. But this is where all of the weight is when everything's installed on the truck. This is where all the pressure sits on these rocker arm trunnions, is right here at the bottom. So my solution is to hopefully get oil in this area now. Obviously the ideal solution would be trash these, trash the rocker arms, buy a new set, but they are very expensive. I actually looked into getting these coated in hopes that it would be a lot cheaper to have these coated myself than buying a set that was already coated in a hard like DLC coating or something, and the cost just wasn't making sense. So what I'm doing is I am trying to clean these up to where they are back usable, and hope that this issue is now going to be resolved. Now, this is what they ended up going to, a setup similar to this later on. I'm not sure exactly what year they ended up changing the trunnions, but these were in a lot of years, this setup with this very small passage here. This is a very common thing. I've heard of people pulling these out with like 10,000 miles and they're already starting to see signs of galling. So like I said, this is at 150 and you can see how galled up that is, and that's just simply from lack of oil being able to get in there, and I'm sure the quality of oil now has something to do with it as well. There's a lot of additives that they've taken out of the oils that would have helped prevent this, you know, a while ago. All the old oils had you know, like zinc in it and this and that. But yeah, so expect to see this if you pull your rocker arms and trunnions apart on your 24 valve Cummins. And a lot of these were sticky. They were hard to get out. A couple of them I had to actually knock out. So you can see the gauling here. Now this is where it's really bad, is in the rocker arm itself. Now the steel on the trunnion, I'm sure, is much harder steel than what these rocker arms are. So I'm going to try and show you the gauling in here. Let me get a flashlight. This is where the bad gauling takes place, and I'm pretty sure the material that's transferred. This is going to be hard to show you guys, this part. And my flashlight is a piece of junk. Try and get this to where you guys can see it. It's going to be hard to see, but you can take my word for it. The worst of the gauling is going to be in this rocker arm itself. So what do we do here? Well, I've already run these on the lathe with 1200 grit sandpaper just to smooth off where I machine those passages. So these are already smoother than they were. But what we're going to do is the 1200 is not taking off the deposits on the trunnion. 600 grit seems to be working great on just the gauling. So like I said, I've already spun these with some 1200 grit on the lathe after I machine these passages. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 600 grit just to the areas that's got the gauling on it. So I'm going to try and focus just right here. The idea is to just remove these deposits without removing metal from your trunnion. This is a very precise fit, and you really don't want to take off anything extra. You probably should see how much you've got there to begin with. These are got plenty of room to shrink, so I'm not too worried about it. They're well within spec. However, the rocker arms, when I measured these, the couple that I did, they're almost already at the end of their spec, at least according to the specifications that I found. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 600 on the trunnion, and then we're going to use it's a 3-pad hone is what I used with some light oil in the rocker arm. Like I said, you're just trying to knock down the gauling. You're not trying to remove any metal. These will never look perfect. If you remove enough to remove the gauling valleys, you've taken too much off and you're probably out of spec on this. You're only trying to knock down the parts that are going to grab, with the hopes that with the additional oil that the gauling issue will not get any worse. This is something I'm going to have to see after I pull. I don't know how long I'll wait to pull one out and see how it looks, but it'll be pretty shortly. I'll probably have to just kind of check up on them as I go. And if they get too bad, I mean, you just got to buy a set. It's what it is, you know. I'm just trying to save these to see if this will work. It's not 100% sure, but I'm going to tell you right now, when I'm done with this set right here, you're going to see how smooth these are. So they're basically going to be going back to, well, basically almost like brand new operation, really. You know, it's kind of a bummer. You're going to still have some gauling valleys in the rocker arm, but that's kind of just the nature of the beast. So I'm going to go ahead and clamp this in my vise. I'm going to hit the galled areas with the 600 grit, and I will bring this back and I will show you the difference. See the galling there right where by the oil passages? And this side's got none. 0. There's no pressure up there. All the pressure is down here. And the higher pressure valve springs you run only are going to exaggerate this problem, because you're going to be putting more pressure in this area. So I'll be right back with the sanded part. We'll see how it looks. Alright, I'm back off the vise with the trunnion after being polished with the 600 grit, only where the gauling exists. And this is what it looks like now. The 600 grit's the key, definitely. The 1200, it didn't do much. Definitely 600 takes it off pretty well. Doesn't take long, and it doesn't seem to. Now, of course, there's still going to be some remnants of it, but it is night and day better. You can still see just a little bit, but it is way better than it was and much smoother. So these are totally serviceable. I have no problem. The rocker arms, these are in much worse shape, which is kind of a bummer. Obviously the softer material, I think the deposits are coming off this and going onto the trunnion is honestly what I think's happening. So you can sand those off the top of this. There is a little bit of valleys, but not like in here. This is mostly kind of deeper grooves. So what we're going to do with the hone is just basically, we just want to smooth that area out so there's no roughness at all. So that's going to be the next step here. I guess I'll get set up real quick for that. We'll do one. Why not? Alright. Grab some WD-40. Alright. I'm hoping you guys can see this because I'm not looking through the camera. I just want to run a little lubrication in there when you're going to be running a hone. Now this is sketchy kinda. You got to have this thing like just right in there or it wants to grab the rocker arm and spin it out of your hands. And these pads are really soft so you can break them super easy. So it's kind of a by feel thing. It took a minute to kind of get the hang of the sweet spot. Now there's kind of grooves worn in these pads where I need to stop pushing it in. But if you go too far in with this, it just grabs the rocker arm and wants to spin it. So it's kind of just, I don't hold the rocker arm real tight. I'm trying to let it kind of self-center itself to where it's happy. And if it starts to grab, I just try and let go of the trigger real quick on the screw gun. Let's go ahead and give it a go. You got about 1/8 of an inch. Oh, see, it just popped out. You got about 1/8 of an inch you can go in and out without it going too far in, or you go too far out, it does that. It wants to spring out. So it's a very fine line where you can run this thing. You'll get the hang of it though. It just takes doing a few. Gonna hone this out to where it's smooth. I'm only going about a good, I don't know, just guessing 30-40 seconds or so. Just want it to be nice and smooth. You don't want to take too much out of there. Let's go ahead and look at that. See what that looks like. Yeah, and you can see it's taken off some of the shininess in there. But, you know, the groove still remains, of course. Like I said earlier, you can't get that. If you get that all the way out, I think you're going to be in trouble. You're just smoothing. Let's go ahead and do the other side here. And see the difference of these now. Once I do this, and clean them up and put them together and see how smooth they are. All right. That should really be all it takes. This is the, let's see, this is the 4th cylinder that I've done with this hone. So there's 2 per cylinder, so 2, 4, 6, 8. This will be the, after this one will be the 8th one, and that, the stones on the hone are about gone. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through all of them. If I do, it's gonna be just barely. So it's pretty tough on the stones, definitely. At least the ones I got. Those could be some cheapies, I don't know. And if that's a loaner hone, that one's not mine. All right. Okay, we got those all smoothed out in there. The next step is going to be to take both these out, and you're going to want to spray them out really good with some brake clean or whatever your choice may be. You know, if you got a parts bath or whatever, you can go that route. I'm just using brake clean and compressed air and shooting. You want to make sure you shoot in all these oil holes. If you look down this hole, there's the passages in there. You're going to want to spray all that out real good. Make sure there's no debris anywhere in these things. And the same thing goes with the rocker arm. You got an oil passage there and one on the other side there. And you're just going to want to spray these out really good. You don't want any hone debris left over in there, any, you know, sandpaper debris, any of that stuff. You want them really clean. Super important. We don't want to start the gauling process right off the bat. So yeah, that's the next step. I'll go clean these up, and I'll be back. All right, I'm back with some clean parts and a buzz from all the brake clean I've been breathing in the shop. All right. So everything's been blasted out with brake clean and air. Make sure you guys are still lined up here to see. Kinda. Okay. All right. So next step, I'm going to take a lint-free cloth. I'm going to wipe off any residue that happens to be left over after the brake clean spraying, and airing off with the compressor. All right. Much better than it looked before. Okay. And for those that don't know, the oil is fed through the bottom, through these passages. And what's kind of interesting is when the bolts through there, the oil actually has to travel around the outside of the bolt. Just kind of interesting. I'm not sure why they did that, if they figured these threads might act as a type of filter or something. I'm not sure why they ran it around the bolt. But kind of interesting how they did that. So yeah, it comes up around the bolt. Your trunnion would sit in there just like that. And remember, these don't move. These trunnions do not move. The rocker arm rotates around the trunnion. So these get fastened down basically just like that. Okay, so the oil is going to come up the bolt hole. Well, when the bolt's in there, the head seals that oil from coming out the top. And then it goes down these two passages on either side right here right here, that's what the pick's going into. Hold on camera doing this. And that's where it then feeds these. And this is what feeds your rocker arm and basically the rocker arm on the trunnion here. The oil will come out right there. So I'm hoping my passages are deep enough. They're 10 thousandths. That's going to be enough to push oil in that area. Like I said, only time's going to tell with that one. But I think even if you didn't add these passages and you just clean these up, you would get, you know, some more service life out of them if you didn't want to drop the coin to buy a whole new set. Just these are expensive. If you've got to buy new rocker arms, man, yeah, you're talking some serious bucks. And then I'm not sure. These should probably be fine. I don't think these really wear out. There's nothing that... There is slight contacts on the sides here where the rocker arms rotate, but other than that, that's like really the only wear spots I see on these at all. Is right there. So I don't know. You might even have to get a new set of those. But yeah, talking pricey. That's why I invested my time in trying to save these. I've got probably 16 hours in the machining on these oil grooves. You figure 6 grooves a piece times 12 and 2 passes for each groove. So that's, what is that? So that's 6. That's 12 passes per trunnion. So that's 12 times 12. That's how many cuts I had to make on all these. So very time consuming. But when you got time and not money, this is a route to go. Okay, so anyways, we got this all wiped down. We're going to want to do the same kind of for all the parts, really. This is your kind of last time to really get in there and clean this up. Okay. Let's definitely wipe out the bores here with a pen. All right. Now, I'm going to use a quality assembly lube because these pretty much are going to have to re-break in because we've changed, you know, the surfaces on them. So I'm trying to keep everything together, which what came out of what, but still I think these are going to have a little bit of a break-in period. So you're going to want to use a very good quality lubrication on these. I'm using Lucas. It's got some zinc and some moly in it. It's pretty thick. Should do. See, I went and got ahead of myself on this one. I gotta do this first. I'm not shy with this stuff. I goober it in there. I push a little bit down in the oil passage just so it has a little bit on reserve when these things start moving for the first time. You want to make sure there's plenty of lubrication when you start this thing up for the first time, because you can gall these things right off the bat. Alright, that's a pretty good amount in there. You want to coat this really good, especially if you do got the grooves there. You're going to want to fill those up. Try and push it all down in that oil groove so it's got some there. Oh yeah. Do some more of that. There we go. Alright, that's got a good amount on there. We're going to go ahead and slide slide it on in. Of course, it's going to knock off a lot of the oil when you do that. That's why you want to make sure you put it on both sides. Okay. Take my fingers off here. We will see how smooth this is. Just a little bit on the edges here, and that's going to slide right out of there. That's a good sign. All right. I don't think you really need to put any right in this spot because, like I said, this doesn't rotate right here, but get a little rust protection anyways. Okay, so these sit like that, I believe. Okay. All right. There is the exhaust. Yeah, look at that. That is what I'm talking about. It would not do that at all when I took that out of the truck. They were stuck. They were crunchy feeling. They were just nasty. This is going to be a whole new life for these things. But yeah, so, you know, some time. I've probably got, they said roughly 16 hours in the machining, and then another, I don't know, I'll probably have another 8 or 12 hours in the finish work with the sandpaper and the hone, roughly, by the time I do all of them. But this is going to be a lot happier than if I didn't do anything. So anyways, hopefully, you know, someone learned something, kind of saw maybe what was going on in there. I had no idea. I was kind of surprised on this issue. I did a lot of research on it once I discovered it. And yeah, sure enough, pretty much very common problem. And, you know, you can, when you look at it, you just see why there's not a lot of oil that's going to get in that area. Aftermarket ones will typically add either one large groove or multiple. They'll enlarge this oil passage, they'll enlarge this line oil passage that feeds all the way around. So there's a lot of benefits to getting the aftermarket ones. And of course, I think the 6.7 Cummins, when they went to the 6.7, they updated to a 3-groove system. I think they're compatible. Not 100% sure, but I think you can run them in the 98 to 02s. Not 100% sure. I think I remember reading something about that. Lucky for me, I've got access to a mill and a lathe, so I just did it myself. Yeah, time will tell. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video when I get this engine built, and we'll see how they look in a while. I'm going to be running an aftermarket camshaft Hamilton. I believe the size is a 178/208, if I remember correctly. And I'm also running some 104-pound valve springs. So, if anything, the wear should be exaggerated with that combination. If I'm going to have a problem, it should show up relatively quicker than it would have otherwise. But anyway, I think that's all I got to say about these guys. Just kind of felt like making a video on what's going on in there. And if you guys got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Thanks for watching.